It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Our home, planet Earth. It all started around 4.6 billion years ago with the birth of the Sun and a solar nebula, the cloud of dust and gas created when the Sun burst into life. It is theorized the solar wind dispersed most of the gaseous element to the outer solar system, where it would go on to form the gas giants, leaving the rest of the gas and dust to coalesce or come together to eventually form the rocky planets of the inner solar system, Earth being the third of such planets. The protoplanet Earth began to grow with every piece of rock which slammed into it, getting bigger and more like the size it is today, with a core which now represents around 50% of its diameter, a rocky mantle and a crust. The Earth had either developed where it resides now, in the Goldilocks zone, not too hot, not too cold, for water to exist in liquid form, in our case an average distance of 93 million miles or 150 million kilometres from the Sun, or it was nudged there somewhere along the way early in its history by impacts and likely a gravitational bump from other bodies, Jupiter for example. Either way, it could not be in a sweeter spot for life to take a hold. With a sidereal day and a solar day taking almost the same 24-hour period, and a year, one full orbit of the Sun, taking just over 365 days. For information on the difference between a sidereal day and a solar day, please view our previous episodes in this series. Early in our planet's history, it is believed, another planetary body had formed in the same orbital path. We have named this theoretical body Theia, and it is said at some point it likely struck the Earth, a glancing blow, dislodging huge chunks from the surface and propelling them out into a geo-orbit, an orbit around the Earth, where eventually they also coalesced to form the Moon we call, well, imaginatively, the Moon. To be fair, it was the only moon we knew of at the time it was named. Nobody knows exactly when that was, or who named it for sure. Galileo had not been born, let alone turned his telescope to the gas giant Jupiter and discovered its 4 main moons, Io, Europa, Ganymede and Callisto, at this point in time. And so, now we know there are hundreds of them in our solar system. Ours remains the Moon. All the others have been given names. Almost every planet and moon's name is taken from Roman and Greek mythology, except the moons of Uranus, who are named after characters from the works of Shakespearean plays. Luna, in the interest of fair play, is also from Greek mythology, but stands predated by other derivatives for the word moon. Anyway, back to the script. At this point, the moon's orbital path was much closer to the Earth than it is today, which caused huge tides hundreds of feet high around the planet. Eventually, the moon began to retreat away from the Earth and the tides began to decrease in size, making the waters less hectic and more suitable for the ensuing journey of creation which would soon take place. It is said that volcanic vents deep below the ocean's surface could well have been the cradle here on Earth, a place where many different molecules could come together, along with plenty of heat, aiding in the boiling of the stew of life and the perfect medium, water, for cellular activity to commence. Since then, the Earth has been through a number of extinction events, from oxidization, the atmosphere being overwhelmed with intense levels of oxygen which becomes super toxic at such high levels, recurring global ice ages, meteor impacts, and supervolcano eruptions. Life has been tested to the brink many times on this rock, and every time it has proved its resilience and managed to come back adapted and stronger. Single-cell life forms have mutated and become multicellular. Fish have evolved into bigger fish. Some have grown limbs where fins once were, and they have stepped out from the water and onto land as mammals. Some even lost their limbs and developed fins, and returned to the water and evolved into other creatures, like the whales, for example. And the small reptiles became the monstrous dinosaurs. Now, around 65.5 million years ago, a devastating asteroid impacted the planet. We know this due to the KT boundary, also known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, a thin layer of rock found all around the Earth under the surface, containing extremely high levels of iridium and shocked quartz, a key signature of a large space rock impacting at great velocity. The impact associated with the KT boundary was responsible for seeing off the dinosaurs. No dinosaur bones were ever discovered above the distinct line of the KT boundary. The elimination of the dinosaurs left the small mammals and other creatures who had managed to escape the Armageddon, underground or deep in the oceans, to fill the void and prosper like never before. There were barely any significant predators left, and so the little creatures thrived. After many evolutionary mutations, we arrived at where we are today, with over 7 billion humans at the top of the food chain. A species with the ability to actually learn how to attempt to protect this planet from future extinction events. The only species of its kind we know of anywhere with the ability to actually take the survival of its own kind into its own hands and strive to make plans to avoid its demise. That isn't to say we can't and won't make a complete mess of things ourselves, or even neglect the extinction matter altogether. Though NASA and other such bodies have gone a long way into seeking out potential impactors, and potentially dangerous near-Earth objects, also known as NEOs, monitor volcanoes, and much more, and work tirelessly to try and find a way to predict another extinction level catastrophe and an attempt to protect against it. Sadly, we are also so intelligent we have even worked out how to create not just one or even a few nuclear weapons, but thousands. Militaries around the globe now have at their disposal enough of these terrifying weapons to destroy almost every single species of creature, including humans, on the planet in an extremely short period of time. Let's all hope that mad, mutually assured destruction is enough to put off even the craziest of government leaders or militaries. We could also destroy ourselves in a longer, drawn-out way. The development of fossil fuel use for energy, adding to the natural process of global warming our planet cycles through every so many thousands of years, and possibly nudging it to a point of no return. On a brighter note, we have strived for excellence in the creation of technology which is useful, gadgets for communication, buildings of great architecture, entertainment, assistance for wildlife preservation. I could go on and on. We are clearly the most adaptable and creative species to have ever existed, building settlements in rainforests, living in the arid deserts, occupying small islands and large islands, and even continents, and even finding a place to call home in the harsh frozen extremes. Some of us even get to dwell in low Earth orbit for long stretches of time. As a species, we should be truly celebrated, if only for our own abilities to survive in just about any environment. Our ability to look out into the great beyond and learn to understand what is going on out there, what went on before us, and what the future holds for the cosmos to a large degree, is truly astonishing for a creature which only a relatively short time ago crawled out from the waters and took its first steps on land and began to climb trees. We have invented rocket ships and sent probes and landers to other worlds, and even left the solar system with a number of probes, most famously the Voyagers 1 and 2. We have landed 12 men on the moon.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've sent submersibles to the deepest parts of the ocean and discovered life even exists there in the crushing depths of the Marianas Trench. And we have scaled our highest mountains. We are remarkable, born of this world and created from stardust, nurtured, cared for and educated by the wisdom of our forefathers and peers. The Earth is a fairly calm planet, geologically speaking. We still have towns and cities, even, destroyed by natural disasters, earthquakes, landslides, volcanoes, and flooding. But all in all, compared to how the world was, and how other planets still are, the Earth should be sustainable for habitation for a long while yet, a slice of good fortune permitting. As mentioned in our first episode, long after the demise of humans on planet Earth, the sun will one day, roughly 5 billion years from now, expand as it runs out of hydrogen fuel and starts to swell, growing in size as it begins to fuse helium. Our planet may avoid being swallowed up and drift away from the once glorious solar system, as the sun loses most of its mass and so gravitational allure, and whimpers out. The Earth may cruise through the blackness, and maybe it will find itself coasting into another solar system, one day, far, far in the future, where it may settle as a moon to another larger planet, or even become a thriving planet in its own right, once again settled in the Goldilocks zone of another star. It's nice to dream. In the next episode, the red planet, Mars.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for